Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Bella K-Commerce, joined by Kitty. K-Commerce is the leading market intelligence provider in China.
Hello, good to see you here.
For the next 30 minutes, we are going to explore the China titanium dioxide industry. A recorded version of this webinar will be available. We will upload it to YouTube and send you the link. If you have any question, send it in the chat box anytime, and we will personally email you after the webinar. Okay, without any delay, let's start.
To start with, let's take a quick look at today's agenda. Firstly, let's take a look at new TiO2 projects under COVID-19. Next, we will discuss COVID-19 impacts on downstream industry. Thirdly, we will talk about production outputs of leading TiO2 enterprises over the last few months. And then we will show you development of TiO2 export. The fifth point is Ilmenite market. Lastly, we will share our research outlook in short run and for the coming year. Okay, Bella, could you introduce some new TiO2 projects in the first half of 2020? Any projects were affected by the COVID-19?
Sure. As you can see in this table, some of them are the newly built projects, and some of them are the expansion projects, and also some relocation projects. The outbreak of the COVID-19 still cannot stop the progress of the new projects in titanium dioxide industry domestically. Although most new titanium dioxide projects were suspended in H1, especially in Q1 under the influence of COVID-19 epidemic, nevertheless, thanks to the effective measures for combating the disease and the enormous effort made by Chinese government and its people, enterprises resumed work and production gradually. For example, Shandong Jinhai Titanium Dioxide Resources Technology Company had faced difficulties resuming work of the 100,000-ton rutile titanium dioxide relocation project under the COVID-19 epidemic since the Spring Festival, and finally restarted the project in late April with the help of governments at all levels. Shandong Jinhai applied for acid entry permits to ensure smooth transportation of epidemic prevention materials and emergency supplies. The company offered point-to-point direct transport service to help employees to return to their positions from Henan and Hebei provinces and Tianjin City. It received epidemic prevention materials like disinfectant and face masks from related departments, providing material support for smooth progress of the project. When this project is finished, Shandong Jinhai's total production capacity of sulfate processed rutile titanium dioxide increased to 250,000 tons annually, ranking among the top domestic titanium dioxide manufacturers. The COVID-19 also had a great impact on downstream industries. Coating, plastic, papermaking, and ink are the major downstream industries of titanium dioxide in China. Based on CCM historical data, coating plastic industries consume over 70% of domestic titanium dioxide. Kitty, let's discuss about the impacts caused by COVID-19 in coating and plastics industry.
Well, no problem. Firstly, let me introduce the COVID-19 impacts on coating industry. In the early stage of the outbreak, many coating enterprises suspend production, but since the epidemic situation was brought under control domestically, enterprises gradually resumed full production. In January to March, China's coating output plunged by 22.8% year-on-year. In January to May, the coating output went down by 9.4% year-on-year. In January to June, the total output slipped by 5.4% year-on-year. These figures indicate that the industry has a strong momentum to recover. As for revenue of domestic coating industry, in January to March, operating income fell by 26.5% year-on-year, and profits plummeted by 56% year-on-year. In January to May, Operating income declined by 14.9% and profits descended by 19.4% year-on-year. According to the data of the National Bureau of Statistics, China produced a total 24.09 million tons of coating and sold 24.16 million tons in 2019. Specifically, the sales volume in Q1 is 3.91 million tons, in Q2 is 5.69 million tons, in Q3 is 11.96 million tons, and in Q4 is 12.19 million tons. Accordingly, in the half one of 2020, the total output of enterprises above designated site in domestic coating industry was 9.12 million tons, calculated at a year-on-year drop of 5.4%. Operating rates of coating factory weakened, and market demand shrank due to the latest effect of the disease. Sun Lianying, the president of CMCRA, said at the fifth China Coating Forum held on 24 July that the economic operating of coating industry in the half one 2020 displayed three features. First, the operation of larger enterprises recovered at a faster speed while small and medium enterprises faced more difficulty. Second, architecture's coating showed a strong momentum of growth and even grew faster compared with the same period last year. Third, industrial coating less impetus to rise, but profits increased faster than that in the half one of 2019, owing to the influence of raw materials. Sun Lianying also stressed that recapitalization will occur more frequently, polarization will become more prominent, and industrial concentration degrees will improve as more enterprises relocate into industrial parks, and industrial layout keep upgrading. Safety and environmental inspection and market supervision will be intensified, bringing more green products with lower volatile organic compounds and better guiding consumption and market application. All this will promote the green and high-quality development of the coating industry. In terms of performance of coating enterprises in the half one of 2020, most of the listed coating enterprises still managed to achieve year-on-year increase in operating income, but only several of them obtained year-on-year growth in both operating income and net profit.
Next, let's take a look at the influence of COVID-19 on the plastic industry. In January to March 2020, the total output of domestic enterprises of plastic products was 50.50 million tons, a year-on-year decrease of 22.91%, and the growth rate was 26.43%, lower than the same period of the previous year. The operating incomes of 60,226 enterprises above designated size was 334.93 billion RMB, down by 21.03% year-on-year. Profit of the enterprises dropped by 90.38%. As we can see in the table, compared with January to March 2019, there is a dramatic decline in output, revenues, and export volume of plastic products in January to March 2020. According to the data from China Light Industry Information Center, in H1 2020, domestic output of plastic products industry hit 31.77 million tons, down by 9.6% year-on-year. In January to June 2020, the cumulative operating incomes of domestic manufacturers of plastic products reached 838.83 billion RMB, down by 60.7% year-on-year. The total profit attained 49.8 billion RMB, up by 60.7% year-on-year.
Many of our clients might be interested in the CO2 producer in China. So what's their performance?
Well, as can be seen in this table, in H1, Chinese titanium dioxide producers has produced more than 1,600,000 tons titanium dioxide, up by nearly 5% over last H1. And top 10 is as below. By the way, the very top 4 companies in this table are the listed company. So the top 10 accounts for nearly about 75% of the total output nationwide.
Alright, now we turn to development of TiO2 export. Bella, can we see any change in volume or shift in export region or country for Chinese producer?
Well, in H1 2019, China has exported 470,000 tons titanium dioxide. In 2020, this number is roughly to be about 80,000 tons more, up by over 50%. China official data shows that in Q1, China exported titanium dioxide 323,420 tons, up by nearly 40% over last Q1. Specifically, China export rutile 312,560 tons, up by a significant 42%. Export anatides 10,835 tons, up by 30%, and non-pigment of 25 tons, up by 69%. But it's surprising to know that the export volumes are increasing in this period, right? Then what about the export price?
Here let's take a look at the chart. We see the average export price of China TiO2 in this spring was at lows, and CCM are keeping monitoring price of TiO2 and know that the domestic price have also stayed at low levels since 2020, and it may possibly do all year round. While the prices tend to be lower, generally we attribute this to shrinking demand under COVID-19.
Do you remember the titanium dioxide output and export volume in H1? If there were really shrinking demand under COVID-19 for China titanium dioxide, why did Chinese producer came up 5% more of titanium dioxide and over 15% more of the export than last H1?
Alright, a possible explanation is that there was not necessarily a shrink in demand, at least from the outside. A great number of countries have asked more TiO2 from China in Q1 than last year. Here is the top 10 in Q1 2020. Compare their data to last year. From the table, it shows that the China's export volume. Here we can clearly note that in Q1, the export volume was much larger than last year. Well, we also saw a decreased volume in Q1 for some TiO2 exporting countries, but this a little dip to top 20 countries.
Now we know that we did have a bigger output and a bigger export volume under this shrinking demand. Question comes that why we saw such a bigger output in half one and bigger export volume in Q1. Did it have any link?
Yeah, it might have some link. Back then in spring, overseas demand turned out to be boosting. The FOB price of TiO2 was at new low due to previous performance, and China was still conducting COVID-19 nationwide, and the world was facing a risk of global outbreak. Under all these circumstances, for Chinese producers, producing and stocking a certain number of TiO2 either in order for an expected boost in overseas demand or a lately recovery of domestic demand, or let's say the uncertainty under COVID-19 was preferable. The following program was set by summer with domestic demand maintaining weak and such producing and stocking ongoing for months. Many Chinese TiO2 producers have found overstock and lower quotation in the industry. For importer abroad, in half one, especially in Q1, Purchasing and stocking TiO2 from China at certain low price may be the best choice to face the worst uncertainty.
Well, in the third quarter 2020, there is a very tricky phenomenon about the quotations of many titanium dioxide producers. Most of them had announced once and once again to raise their quotations since July, but the fact is that there is no actual increase since in the national average price. We were confused by that because it was not as usual. Usually, we have got a bunch of little pioneers rising quotations often due to the cost factor, and then the head enterprises like Roman Bidders response will also have a rise on it. However, in this time, it has been 2 months that China leading titanium dioxide company gave no response on it until early September. All the listed titanium dioxide companies announced to raise their quotations formally in the exchange market.
Now let's focus on TiO2 upstream market, Ilmenite. Ilmenite is an important raw material of TiO2. So what's the import trend of Illumina in 2020?
In January to April 2020, China imported a total of 1.02 million tons of ilmenite, growing by 30.81% over the same period last year. The average import price was $209.4 per ton, up by around 20% year-on-year. Mozambique, Kenya, and Australia ranked as the top three import origins. Mozambique exported 385,565 tons. Kenya exported 121,679 tons, and Australia exported 98,878 tons of ilmenite to China respectively. What we can see from these first 8 months of 2020 is that the price of foreign ilmenite keeps very high and the price of domestic fluctuates. Since the beginning of quarter two, operating rates of global oil enterprises have fallen due to the spread of COVID-19 pandemic and global supplies became tightened. Consequently, prices of imported ilmenite stay at very high levels, and miners shows no intention of lowering prices. However, prices of upstream Sichuan ilmenite fluctuate greatly, and domestic ilmenite prices at that time mainly depended on the production costs, operating rates, and market supplies, and also the policies.
Do you remember the price curve of TiO2? Sichuan ilmenite price curve is highly in line with them. Latest news also showing that in September, quotation of Sichuan ilmenite goes up as market spot supply goes tight shortly after the increase of TiO2 price. Especially producers in Yunnan province have almost stopped producing 46% ilmenite due to cost factor in May. In the future, they may only produce 45% ilmenite. That's why the price of ilmenite in Yunnan province saw a sharp decline from April to May. By August this year, China has produced 3.06 million tons ilmenite, down by 3% year-on-year. Among these, Sichuan has produced 2.3 million tons, down by 10%, and accounting for 75% of total output. Recently, Vietnam have released a total quota of around 300,000 tons, which means that ilmenite export business will once again legitimate to Vietnam's ilmenite exporters.
Now let's have a look at the very downstream of ilmenite industry. For high titanium slag, in quarter two, high titanium slag enterprises face increasing operating pressures under high production costs and descending sales price. They are pessimistic about the future as profits has been squeezed. Some high titanium slag enterprises in Liaoning province had no choice but to suspend production. Titanium slag enterprises had reduced production significantly. As for acid dissolved titanium slag, sales price of this acid-dissolved titanium slag falls much like that of high titanium slag in Q2, but the price had a rebound in July. What would be the outlook in the short run and for the coming year? Kitty, how about let's talk about it in terms of price and demand?
Where in short run, as per domestic demand, in general, the domestic demand for CO2 in half two turns out to be better than in half one. But by the end of this year, there might not be a giant leap for domestic demand side. The price of CO2 in China may possibly come down in a steady way, and maybe in a slow way, much slower than producer even needs to raise their quotation every month. For overseas demand, up to now, overseas demand for China's CO2 is agreeable to many Chinese producers under COVID-19. But the second wave of COVID-19 has become an uncertain challenger to the demand, and as a result, the second biggest destination of China's CO2 goes into summer very soon. The overall demand may go down until the end of this year, and average export price may stay weak.
Regarding the coming year, in 2021, we don't expect to be optimistic. On the one hand, the second wave of the virus is almost bound to happen again as Europe has showed it, and the developing countries like India, Brazil has not yet got away from the first one, while the developing countries are deeply stuck into the swamp. On the other hand, demand under such circumstances must be depressed, which is uncompensated. Anyway, the coming year is of great challenges, uncertainties for Chinese and the world's titanium dioxide industry. It is predicted that the demand home and abroad might be better than this year, and the price may continue to fluctuate throughout the year without any soul.
We just mentioned the TiO2 and Ilmenite export situation in China. Cucumbers, another brand to analysis, mainly provide the China and global import-export analysis report to monitor the trade flow. Some of you guys may already know from that or other supplier that because of COVID-19 and China customs sales inspection, the main source didn't release the data since June this year. Since Cucumber have 20 years experience in this industry, our research team combined the AI technology, huge database, multiple resources, and different channels to make the report. So we could still providing this useful info to our client to check the trade flow between China and other countries. Here you can see the TiO2 China export data in June, including the port of destination, the destination country, the unit price, value, and quantity. The business company here are the exporters. As we know, the exporters are not always the manufacturer. They could be the trader. If you want to find out your potential products, we can also help you to analyze the manufacturers and buyers here. You can also see the official statistic data and the summary. We made some table to show the data and help you learn the description of your target products in a more clear way. If you want this sample, please contact your account managers or leave a message in the chat box.
Alright, that's all the information we shared in this webinar. Thank you very much for attending, and we hope you could get some key points out of the presentation. If you have any questions left, please write them down in the chat box. We will gather all of them and answer them detailed to your email as soon as possible.
All the information was enabled by our brand CCM and Analysis. If you want to find out more, I recommend you to have a look at our website and contact our team for any questions and inquiries.
Thanks again and have an awesome day. Please keep safe and be strong.
Goodbye.
Thank you.